Okay, YouTube, welcome to a brand new series with the Flying Phent. This is Prison Architect, Alpha 23. And this is going to be like an episode 0. This is kind of like a planning episode. Now, I have already done the planning. But I'm going to kind of explain my thought process and let you know what all the different things mean in my planning. In fact, I'm going to select planning so it stands out more. There we go. Okay, so my entrance is way down here, as you can see. My deliveries. I couldn't read what it was, and I had a brain fart. I couldn't remember. Deliveries, exports, and garbage are right there, right next to what will be the security office. So this is where like idle guards will usually hang out. I think, based on my experiences here, they tend to spend time here, and in the yard seems to be a common one as well. I don't know why, but there you go. So if I keep them here, that keeps them near the entrance, which is good. This, of course, is road gates, and then everything's kind of fenced in. So that even if inmates manage to get outside of the prison somehow, they're not free and clear. The other reason I like doing this is if I don't put this in, then any random Tom, Dick, or Harry could walk right up to here and throw stuff over the fence. By putting this in, he can't throw stuff over that fence. And if you look all the way along, okay, maybe somebody could throw something over here. But all of this is staff only, so that's probably not going to help any inmates. Then you could maybe throw something over here, but this is all staff only, and in fact I should have another little, one more. There we go. I should have, I call these airlocks. I should have another airlock there. And of course they could throw something over here, but this is also going to be staff only. So I should be able to keep contraband out once I've managed to get my perimeter fence and walls built. So that's kind of why I have this section here and that as well. This is going to be a large jail door, and large jail door with a guard stationed here and a guard stationed here. Usually I'll have an armed guard stationed here and an armed guard stationed here. This way, anyone needing to get in or out of the prison, there's always a guard nearby to open the doors. Also, if someone does manage to get out, maybe they've killed a guard and they're escaping. So they have keys, right? Worst case scenario, they have keys from the guard. They open this door or this one, then they open this one. Then a guard, they have to get past one guard, who as soon as he starts fighting, the other guard's going to back him up. And most likely, by the time he gets past the second door, then the armed guards will be there to back him up. So the chance of somebody getting out will be pretty slim. Escape is not something I'm really going to have a risk of in my prison. Riots and murder is a lot more likely. This big area here is the holding cell. And I've actually been thinking about this. I don't know if I really like... This initially was TVs. And I don't know if this needs to be TVs. This is... I'll just kind of explain what's going on. Showers on either end. These are toilets, 4 toilets, and then 3 more toilets here. That's not a lot of toilets, but it's a sufficient amount. And then phones, and phones. These here are benches. I don't necessarily need these to be benches. But I kind of had space to fill. And since there's TVs here, I figured why not put some benches. Did I call these TVs? These are TVs. I might have called them phones. These are phones, these are phones, these are phones, and these are phones. And I'm thinking these are probably enough TVs. So what I might do actually is just go ahead and call these beds. So this will be 5 beds, that's 5 beds, this is 5 beds, this is 5 beds. So right there's 15 beds and 30 beds. And then 4, 4, and 2 gives me another 10. And 4, 4, and 2 gives me another 10. So all told, this should hold 50 inmates. Now you might think that's a really big holding cell, 50 inmates. But the thing is, inmates don't try to escape from the holding cell. And for the cost of just having to add beds and putting in a larger foundation, I have a fair bit of storage room for inmates that I don't have to worry about. So that is kind of a big deal for me. I like to have a lot of room to put my inmates in. As for this design here, you might be thinking, what is this mess? This is where there's going to be a large jail door, and this is where there's going to be a large jail door, and this is where I'm going to have metal detectors. So this is kind of like a quad. It's going to be like an exterior exposed area But that's I kind of like the way it looks. I could get rid of that, and just do something else. But I kind of like the way this flows. I like the way it kind of works out. Plus, it gives me kind of the right number of space I need to kind of fill everything in. So that's good. The other thing worth mentioning before someone kind of gets angry about it. This being the holding cell needs to be completely enclosed, which means this cannot be holding cell. It needs to have a door. Every edge of the holding cell needs to have either a door beside it or a wall beside it. So this will be a door, this will be a door. This will not be designated as holding cell. And then you might be thinking, oh, your shower's never going to work. The holding cell is going to end here. There's going to be a door here. And this will be shower. Same on this side. So the holding cells will be contained. And you'll see I'll put the drains here so I don't get water everywhere. It'll all work out. Trust me, you'll see. Beside that, this is the visitors area. It's not very big for how many inmates I have, but I think it will be enough. I'm actually going to undesignate these for now too. Those were kind of like if I need more room, I have more room type visitor tables, but this will probably be enough. I find visitors kind of trickle in anyway. You can have like 27 families waiting to visit, and with even just 6, it takes 2 days to get through them all. So it's not, it moves pretty quickly. Beside that, infirmary is the top portion. This little smaller portion at the bottom is the morgue. You might think that looks like a weird layout, and it is, but you'll see how I make it work. I like to make things like kind of a little RP, and you'll see how that kind of flows in when I get to it. This stuff I'm going to leave to explain later. The bunch, you'll notice it's pretty repetitive, right? Like this looks identical to this, and this looks identical to this. These are all cells. So I've designated them here. You can see them. There's 12 per side. So each block holds 24 inmates, and each block has 24 showers. There's 12 showers on either side here. So each self-contained block has its own showers. And this is the canteen, the dining room. So my logic is, and I do this with my regime, they wake up, they have a shower, they eat, then they go work or whatever. Some yard time. This is the yard. Then they go back to work. Then they come back in to eat, showers, and bed. I feed twice a day. The first time is really inefficient because any new arrivals won't be getting in to get food. But the second one, I should feed everybody. This is my massive kitchen. Cookers at the top, sinks in the middle, fridges at the bottom. I don't know if it's an efficient layout. All I know is that I have the required ratio, or the ratio that is recommended to have. So for these are my serving tables here. For every serving table, I have 4 cookers, 2 sinks, and 2 fridges. Storage area down here. Again, I'm going to skip kind of some of the stuff on the side. Yard, as I mentioned, this here is going to be my forestry once I get around to needing one. On the far right side, this is going to be my solitary block with all my solitary cells. North of that, this is my common room. There's a mix of chairs for any group therapy that goes on. Some pool tables, and then like a library area. I think the library will probably just be this section here, and then I'll have 4 pool tables. It's not very big, but it's big enough. On the sides, alternating kind of sofas and TVs on the sides here. I thought about maybe putting some phones in, but I don't think I will, simply because I'm going to have phones and TVs in here, as well as phones and TVs, or at least phones in the yard, TVs in every individual cell. So I don't think I'll need phones and TVs, but we'll see. I might. And then kind of chairs, just chairs and more bookshelves with the library. I don't really like the idea of having TVs in the library. Even though, yeah, they're right next to where the pool's going on. So, I don't know. Kind of silly, I suppose, my logic, but that's it anyway. And up here I have my administrative wing. The way it is here, because this area is going to be all staff only. Right? This is the staff lounge, and then the 3 managers, I guess you could call them, like 3 administrators that don't require interaction with the inmates, which for me, I consider that to be the security chief, the accountant, and the warden. Down here, this is room for 3 psychologists, because with an inmate this big, I'm sure I'm going to need a lot of therapy. The what's his name? The foreman is down here. because this is the storage area. This is where the workers are going to kind of mill about when there's nothing to do. It makes sense that the foreman would be here to keep an eye on them. In fact, I should probably put some windows in here. A window there. That's probably enough. Just the one window is good, so you can see what's going on. And in case you're not quite sure what my logic is here, how I've done this, I use walls to designate walls, and if I put a pathway in it, that means window. So like that's a window. This here is windows. Some windows in the holding cell. I mean, this is like eventual goal, right? Like I'm not going to build it with windows, but I might throw them in later. Windows over here. You know, so I don't know why I have windows in my solitary wing. That's a little silly. This was my administrative area initially, but it wasn't really central enough for me, so I moved my administration lane up here. It was kind of nice having it down here, you know, because they could all kind of look out and whatnot. Especially I had the security chief right here, and he could look out over the deliveries and into the security area and make sure that everyone was doing what they're supposed to. But I moved it just because I think solitary is more important to have more centrally located. I'm going to talk about these types of things next. Again, like as with Windows, I have kind of a standard system that I use. And that system is if I put down a 3x3 grid of objects. Is this getting in the way of anything? Can't there. We'll do it in the yard. If I put down the 3x3 thing of objects and surround it with pathways, to me this represents my power station under utilities, power station, because the power station is 3x3, and then you surround it with capacitors. So there's the power station and the capacitors. In areas where I may require, or in areas where I want to also designate a water pump, I just put a water pump in as 3x3. So this together means power station and water pump. I never seem to have water pumps by themselves, so I don't have to have some way to separate a water pump from a random 3x3 grouping of objects, so I've never done that. So as you can see, there's a power station and a water pump. In the other corner, power station, water pump. In this corner, power station, water pump. In this corner, power station, water pump. Now you might think that's an excessive amount of water pumps, but you know, it saves me having to run pipes really, really long and then worry about do I have enough. I don't have to care if I have enough. You know, power station, water pump, solved. You might also be looking and say, well, what the heck is this then? Power station and water pump for the kitchen, and because the kitchen need a lot of power, another power station and water pump. And also because these things transfer power to the thing next to them, I have hallways. Like this is a hallway, and this is a hallway. I mean, here it's kind of like mini hallways, but you do have to get around the sinks. So power won't go past those hallways. So what I'm going to do is run a power cable up here. That will power everything on both sides of this hallway. Run a power cable up here. That'll power everything on this side of the hallway. Now, if I put power cables up here and here, then these two power stations are going to be connected together. And then as soon as you reach your capacity, they're both going to turn off, I think. I don't think they short automatically. I think you still have to exceed their power needs. But they both shut down automatically, which is not ideal. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to run a power system here. I'll run a power cable down here. So this one is going to be powering more than half of the kitchen. This one, having less to do, will power the pump, as well as power the lights, because that's all it's going to be on in the canteen. Lights. It may not produce enough power to do all of them. And if it doesn't, I'll have to come up with an alternative plan. Maybe just use some of the power from those, which I'll talk about in a second as well. But that's the plan initially. This will do lights for the canteen plus, you know, a third or whatever this works out to, less than a third of the kitchen. This will do the majority of the kitchen. Down here, this station is for workshop. W means workshop. So this whole area is going to be powered by this power station. It's going to be just lights. This is a classroom, so it's going to be just lights. All the power in the workshop. I mean, workshops do need a lot of power, so all the power for the workshop. And then laundry and cleaning cupboards. These aren't necessarily going to be 2 laundry and 3 cleaning cupboards. I mean, do I need 2 laundries? I don't know. But temporarily, that's what I've zoned. The kennel is going to just need lights. They can come from here as well. And then my electrocution chamber, my electric chair, I'm going to ideally put power in from here as well. It's going to be a little difficult because I'm going to have to run kind of the power up this side and avoid the electric chair to get this power station to do my cells over here. But that's fine. I can work with that. It'll be a little goofy, but whatever. Kennel, again, just need lights. Up here, more workshops, some more classrooms, and some more cleaning cupboards and laundry. Now you might be going, you have way too many cleaning cupboards and laundry. And I probably do, but I can always just make some of them workshops. So here's power just for these workshops. Again, they use a lot of power. I'm going to have excess power and excess water, but I'd rather have more than not enough. So that's kind of my thinking. I think I've explained everything. I explained my 4 corner rooms there. Oh, I explained the kennel and the electrical. I did not explain the armory. This is armory. Now, I may swap those two, depending on what I decide I want more of. I try not to have too many armored guards, because I don't want to have weapons inside my jail cell. So I mean, I would probably be okay with 2 armored guards here, and then maybe like 1 armored guard, 1 armored guard, and 1 armored guard. So basically just have armored guards patrolling these staff-only areas. That will minimize the number of weapons that end up in my jail cell. The only place that I'll have them would be, a guard going to the break room, and they would come either this short distance, or they would kind of run along here, or they would come, along here, or up here. So hopefully it's minimal, and it won't cause any issues. That's what I'm hoping. So because of that, I don't really need that many armed guards, so I might make this the armed guard. So I have, I only need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I only need 5 lockers, and I can easily fit that plus the bench plus the weapon rack in here. So I might make this the armory and then make this the kennel, because I would like to have more dogs. Dogs are very important. I don't know how I would set it up though with guard patrols. So that is something that I will have to address and re-examine as we get going. But that's the explanation of the jail. Hopefully, if you were interested in this episode, you didn't find it completely boring, and hopefully you don't think my ideas were absolutely ridiculous. Maybe they are. We will see. I played this just to kind of get a feel for like priorities, how big to start off with, because obviously I didn't cheat in any money, right? So I can't just build the whole thing at once. So there is going to have to be some kind of starting small and expanding. So I did play it once through just to give myself an idea of how that worked financially and whatnot. Things were really tight financially for a long time until I had more inmates than I had room for. Like, I was well beyond my capacity, and I had only built, I think, this many cell blocks because money was tight. So I only had room for, I don't know, it was like 160 inmates. I'm not doing the math right now. I'm just going by memory. I think it was 160 inmates. I had enough beds for 160 inmates. So if you counted every individual cell plus all the beds in here, I had room for about 160 inmates, and I had about 190. And then I was trying to do the problem is I kept getting them in groups of like 30, and 30 inmates would come in the next day, like 29 would come in. So I had started doing the inmate nutrition research grant, which is where you feed them like almost no food and then feed them a whole bunch of food. So the people who had already been in, and there was only about, I'm going to say about 60 of them when I started that grant, they were very upset because they were not getting enough food. And they would they'd have like mini riots, like I'd be able to put everyone down before the riot really kicked off. But it meant that they were spending all their time in solitary, which means they weren't eating, they weren't sleeping, they weren't getting exercise, they weren't having their family needs met. And as things got bigger and bigger, when you're in solitary, you don't have a cell assigned. So when they got out of solitary, they literally had no bed to sleep in. So even when they got out, they weren't having their needs taken care of. And then you started like this rotating issue where they would cause a little bit of a fight, and that would hurt someone else's, everyone was feeding off each other, and the next thing I knew, I had 190 inmates. I was almost done the nutrition research grant, and a riot kicked off, and I had like 75 people die in one day. It was the biggest death toll I had ever seen in Prison Architect for games that I played. 170 people died in one day. I had to bring in like the National Guard, and then when all the National Guard in a squad were dead, send the National Guard home and hire a new one, because you can only have 3. But as soon as you click the X, you can go back into emergencies and hire a new one. And I just kept rotating them through, and the little warning came up that said, you have 5 hours to end the riots or whatever. And there was like 7 minutes left when I finally got everybody to stop rioting. And then 3 minutes later, there's another riot of 5 people. And because there was so many people, it was like, it started off and it was like I think it just says deaths down here. It tells you as soon as someone dies, it says deaths, and it shows you a counter of how many people died that day. So it said deaths, and it was like 1, 15, 38, and then it was like prisoners rioting, 61, 140. Like everything just jumped. It escalated so quickly once I had that more people than beds problem. So I did eventually put the riot down, but things just kept sparking up. I could not keep up with the number of rioters and the way they would just keep going. And I had no money, so I was taking more and more loans to hire more and more guards. And it's actually the first time I've ever tried playing where I do not turn off prisoners. And I want to do only high risk. If I did normal risk, I think it would be easier. But I want a bit of a challenge. So I'm just going to do high risk only, and I'm not going to close it unless I have built the whole prison and everybody's full. So I'm not going to be like, oh, I don't have room for 32 inmates, closed. No, if there are still, if there are still planned cell blocks that haven't been built, I'm accepting the inmates, even if I don't have them built right now, and even if I'm completely broke. I didn't do continuous intake because I know you're going to get normal and low all mixed in, and I just want a supermax. I know there's a different challenge with using normal and low, plus you can use the new way that the regime works to kind of balance. I'm not really interested in doing that. I just want to build a high-risk prison, see how long I can hold out with a continuous intake coming on. It's probably not going to be very long. I'll be surprised if I finish an entire quadrant. So I mean, I'm not going to use the whole prison. I'm probably not going to get to the point of using workshops. I'm probably not going to, get to the point of using my armory and my kennel. I'm certainly not going to get to the point of installing the electric chair, especially since it doesn't really do anything right now. I put it there just because why not? I want to have every room in the game, make it look like it's a complete and real jail. But we'll see how far we can last. That's the objective. The objective is not to fill it, hit closed, and say, yay, we won, because I think there's like a 0.00001% chance of us succeeding at keeping everything under control until we can build everything in. But we'll see. Maybe it'll happen. Who knows? But all the building and whatnot is going to pick up in the next episode. For now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.